You're on a very important mission here to Europe. Can you tell us why is it important to include a visit with the Pope during your visit to Europe to talk about climate change?
Well, the Pope is one of the great voices of reason and compelling moral authority on the subject of the climate crisis. He's been ahead of the curve. He's been a leader. His encyclical Laudato Si is really a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive. And I think that his voice will be a very important voice leading up to and through the Glasgow conference, which I believe he intends to, hopefully intends to attend. So we need everybody in this fight. We need all the leaders of the world need to come together, and every country needs to do its part. And I think His Holiness speaks with a moral authority that is quite separate. It's unique, and we need all the power we can bring to the table.
And in fact, Pope Francis has called for dialogue to reach consensus on concrete steps to be taken to combat climate change and promote an integral ecology. At the same time, there are significant different interests at stake between large and small countries, between economic powerhouses like the United States and smaller developing countries. In practical terms, how can we advance the dialogue to reach consensus on climate change? And in particular, what is the U.S. prepared to offer, and what are they asking of other nations in this struggle?
Well, you're absolutely correct. There are differences between countries in what they can do and what they're doing today that is part of the problem versus part of the solution. There are differences, of course. And those differences have been embraced in the language of the Paris Agreement and before that with the phrase common but differentiated responsibility. We all have a common responsibility. That's the key. No country is exempt from needing to take measures to deal with this crisis. On the other hand, we don't expect a very small economy, a very small country, and a very small emitter of greenhouse gases to step up and do the same thing we're going to do. We accept we are the second largest emitter in the world. China is first. Behind us is India, and then you have Russia and other countries coming. But the bottom line is this. No one country can solve this problem. We all have to take steps. And the issue is finding the reasonableness, that point at which people are doing what they reasonably should be expected to do and can do. So the United States has to put up its fair share of funding for adaptation, for resilience. We have to lead in helping to cut our emissions, and we are. President Biden has set a target of reducing our emissions over the next decade by 50 to 52%. But we need other big emitting countries to step up and also offer some reductions. You can't just keep going along with a coal-fired power plant or with more coal coming online and really be the part of the solution that we need to have here. We can do this. That's the important thing. People need to know this is doable. And in the doing of it, we can create millions of jobs. We can have cleaner air. We can have better health. We can have less cancer. We can have less air problems where people are choking and kids are going to the hospital in the summer because of environmentally induced asthma. And we can be more secure in our nations because we can depend on energy that's at home, renewable energy, alternative energy, sustainable energy. And in the creation of those alternatives, there's enormous wealth to be created. The fastest, 2 of the 3 fastest growing jobs in the United States last year, one was wind turbine technician, and the other, the third fastest growing, was solar panel installer. So this is there to be grabbed by people, and what we want to show people is we're not looking for unfairness. We're not looking for people to do the impossible, but no nation has the right to say we don't have to do anything or we don't have to step up because no one country can solve this problem. It takes all of us together to get it done.
In very practical terms, how can the United States, as a superpower, and the Holy See, as a much smaller country, but nonetheless as a moral and spiritual authority, collaborate in the fight against climate change?
Well, the Holy Father is one, if not one of the most powerful voices on the planet, and he's been extraordinary in the eloquence of his call on people to step up and be reasonable and to live out our responsibility as human beings in caring for God's creation. And we all have to be stewards of that creation. That's his message. But because he is above politics and outside of the hurly-burly of day-to-day national conflict, etc., I think he can sort of, shake people a little bit and bring them to the table with a better sense of our common obligation. Different entities will make different contributions to this effort. There are very small nations, some of which don't emit a lot, like in NATO, like Norway or Sweden and some Scandinavian. Denmark is an example. There are plenty of countries, Kenya and places where they're reducing emissions, and they're small, but the power of their message is enormous right now because they're affected. And that's one of the compelling aspects of this. Big, powerful nations like the United States have had the ability over years to be emitting and growing, but now we're at a day of reckoning with respect to what are the consequences of the way we've been growing. And I think the Holy Father speaks with special authority to our sense of obligation to each other and the ways in which we need to all step up now together. Given the divisions of the world and some of the polarization and the ideology and conflict, that voice is more important than ever.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.